So I think it's 4:30. We can start with the session. Good evening, all. We are here for our first webinar, student-led webinar, and we have Commander Manpreet here, who has recommended the speaker today. We have Commander Arjun Warrier, who is retired from Navy and presently in EY. He'll be giving his introduction soon. And over to you, Manpreet sir. I'll be making you the host. Over to you. Over.
Good evening and thank you, Mr. Manta. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Today we have Lieutenant Commander Arjun Warrior Krishnan with us. He has recently joined EY as an associate manager, and he is looking after the field of strategy and data analytics. He has also been in our situation just 1.5 years back when he planned to leave the service, and he joined one of the IIM. And so definitely I believe he's the right person. So he has also gone through the same grind, and he has learned the lessons regarding during his transition from military to corporate, and the lessons learned during this transition. He has been helping all the IIMs wherein the retiring officers are joining the IIM PRC courses, and he has been taking sessions to educate them how to use this time which is available to us for 6 months for PRC, to how to plan so that we also have a successful transition from military to corporate. So without taking further time, I'll request Lieutenant Commander Warrior to start his session.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible and visual? Just a quick check. And is the screen visible?
Yeah, we can see, and audio is clear, Warrior.
Okay.
Loud and clear, sir.
So, sirs, ma'am, thank you. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to speak. As rightly brought out, I was in the Navy for around 10 years. Short service commissioned in 2010 Jan, retired in 2020. Took a short break for around 1 year, after which I had undergone the uphill task of getting placed. Was fortunate enough to find someone to refer me internally, and that's how I got into EY, right? So over a period of time, I've been able to speak to around 10 PRC courses, and at the same time have been able to connect with at least 40 to 50 officers on a one-on-one basis just to understand the pain points. And this session is will be primarily focused on what are some of the do's and don'ts, and what are the lessons learned by not only personally by me, because mistake which I have made because of what is a recurring pattern happening in all other PRC courses, and what is the best way ahead, right? So I've just taken out some time and curated some slides so that it's a bit more engaging. I will stop within an interval of every 10 minutes just to hear or to take any queries, but preferably I can take the larger aspect of questions toward the end of the session. So I have around 58 so slides. Okay, so if I meaning to spend around 30 seconds or so for each of them. Each of them are their perspective. Do try to understand. They may not be. I'm not saying that this is the foolproof method, but this will give you a perspective as to what you're going to expect when you leave service and when you come out, right? So let me just quickly move over to the next portion. Okay, so just to give you an overview, whilst we are all serving the armed forces, what you see on the screen is reasonably well packaged and handed over to you, right from the day one. It starts with you as an individual. You're giving a career path. You're given a very strong brand. A brand is it can be Navy, Army, or Air Force. Okay, you're given a purpose that is to serve the nation and do whatever it takes. Right. So this is kind of packaged and given to you pretty much without, I would say, people don't talk about it, but as and when you move into the corporate world, right, or when you leave service, you realize that all these three different aspects of you, that is your purpose, your brand, your career, all of them, they kind of fall onto your lap, and it's up to you individually to figure out how to craft it ahead, right? So there's no one out here who's going to tell you that, why don't you take up this because this is the most suited for you. No one's going to come and tell you why don't you you need to have a brand for yourself, because that is what is going to bring in that difference. Okay, your purpose again is internally, what is the amount of satisfaction you're going to get when you're into a job. So these are there are three elements you need to really sit back and think before you start looking for a career outside, right? I mean, a simple example is, people say, is there a need to go into LinkedIn? Is there a need to go out and put a photograph and start writing about yourself and all? But essentially, we as veterans, when we come out, we have a tendency to it's not a tendency, we have a practice of using our rank with our name, right? So even if towards the initial days, if I was Lieutenant Commander Arjun, nowadays, so after a period of time, it just becomes although the rank stays, it's you as a brand that makes the difference. Okay, and if I have to define brand, I'm sure, see, in PRC they're gonna talk about this. They will talk about a firm and organization's brand, but when you bring it down or distill it down to an individual level, it is nothing but what is the recall value one gets when they hear your name. Okay, so I mean, when we're in the armed forces, most of us would have built a community, or most of us would have already been part of a community, that is a Sainik school or an NDA or NAVAC, or a squadron, wherein your reputation always follows you, right? Out in the corporate, that does not follow you. Okay, so essentially, you have to come out and you have to start carving a brand for yourself. Okay, and when I say brand, I'll talk about it a bit more in depth. But these are three elements which I believe are the most important aspect for you to identify. First, you need to first define what is it your next step, and this is where you need to start looking at it. Now, something which is never touched upon till date, and I see that it keeps occurring in all PRC batches.
Just 1 second, sir. Arjun sir, I've made the host, so you can mute and unmute the participants accordingly, sir.
Okay, I don't think I'll have that.
If you go to the participants, then you will have that mute all option, sir. So you can just mute all. Just if you click on the participant icon, because if I am the host, if I mute, then you'll also be.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So what is the thought process? What are the kind of thought process you need to have? This is something very interesting and something ideally, an organization like DGR is supposed to come across and put it across to us. Okay, it gets, every batch gets to understand what they're supposed to do in PRC, but by the time they leave, they know what they have to do, but then they leave and then they move to the corporate world, and often at times it doesn't get passed on to the next batch, right? So this is my attempt right now to bring this forth. Let me just go to the next. Okay. So whilst in PRC, your sole purpose is as simple as this. It is to make enough noise in the market. And when I say enough noise in the market, it can boil down to all these areas. There is an element of branding involved. Branding, when I say it's a brand for the batch. Okay, I am Bangalore so and so batch. there's an element of marketing involved. How do you position the batch, or how do you position yourself? What is the pitching involved? How do you sell? What are the negotiations? And finally, at an individual level, how do you close the deal? And when I say deal is, how do you close your, let's say you have got an offer and you have completed your negotiations, you've sold yourself well, and you are happy and you have landed a job. I mean, that would be the sole purpose of every individual right now in this call. Right. Now, let me break it apart. Okay, when I say branding, predominantly LinkedIn is the platform where the batch has to start bringing in a buzz into the market. When I say buzz is on a consistent level, someone within the batch has to be nominated, or it can be a group of 4 people, 5 people. Keep posting articles or keep posting about what are the events which are happening with the batch, right? And start sharing it, because it's only at that point in time that the industry also gets to know that, okay, there is a batch of this sort coming out. Not only that, established veterans in the market also start talking about it. Another point of branding is, what are the kind of conversations we are having with people who are coming to, let's say you're coming to deliver sessions, or how do you approach people in the industry? Okay, those kind of conversations. Like, for example, is the batch approaching, let's say, the CEO of a company who is predominantly into drone technology, or distribution of a specific sensor? It can be anything of this sort. I mean, you can always look back and say, see what are some of the elements which have got parallels in the corporate. And I mean, so okay, let me take an example where in the Navy, we deal with a lot of sensors. We deal with a company called Fluke Instruments. So the kind of conversation you have in the market, it is based on that. The market starts talking. There's a group of military professionals who are currently undergoing the batch in IIM Bangalore, and they seem to be pretty interested in this. Why don't we have a look? Okay, so brand is the buzz. It's the recall value. Okay, so if you ask me, there are some batches out there, like for example, IIM Calicut. Whenever they have a conversation with the professor, there's always immediately someone who's clicking a photograph and sending it out into the LinkedIn, and people start talking about it. Okay, so branding is nothing but the buzz. What is the buzz and recall value you're going to create for your batch? Marketing. How do you leverage your existing ecosystem, right? So it can be an IIM. It can be, so in your case, it's IIM Bangalore. How do you leverage the university's, let's say, placement cell or coordinating cell, or it can be a festival. It can be a virtual. It can be anything wherein there is some event happening in the college and you kind of get involved in it, right? Or participants from within the batch also take up a proactive initiative to reach out to the management, saying, hey, why don't we share what we have learned in our past to the students out there, and the students can in turn come and speak to us about how do they prepare, or it can be about an industry or a sector, right? The marketing can be in the form of a batch. The batch has done something over a weekend. It can be a festive season, or the Dasara is coming up. If there's something of this sort, marketing, it's more about positioning this, and even within the veteran community. Okay, it is the tactical aspects involved. What are the platforms? What are the people we can speak to? How do we go about doing it, right? Next is positioning. Now, positioning is something, it will be a bit more coming down to a bit more personal level. Okay, let's say if there are officers from Navy, okay, naval officers are, you can say, from a very generic standpoint, are specialists in maritime domain. Anything and everything connected to a maritime domain happens to be a naval officer's portfolio. Similarly, when it comes to Air Force, it can be supply chain, can be logistics. I mean, it's there. It is there throughout all 3 services. But by virtue of the role in which we play as officers, when it comes to budgeting, when it comes to the nature of goods or nature of people whom we deal with, we are in a position to position ourselves in a very specific sector. So there can also be people who have been only involved in procurement cases. Okay, let's say only RFI and RFP for the past 7-8 years. Okay, their only job was to just procure for the unit, or so these are all your these are all experiences which really matter when it comes to the corporate world. If you are able to identify that, positioning yourself becomes much easier. Pitch. So pitching is nothing but an elevator pitch. Why we call it an elevator pitch is so right from positioning till down the closing deal, these are all individual level, right? These are efforts which you take at an individual level. Pitching is elevator pitches. Let's say you are in a party, you are in a social gathering where you get to interact with many senior leadership, both from the corporate world, from the public sector. It can be someone's wedding. You need to have at least a 2 to 3 line executive summary about yourself. If someone's going to come and ask you, hey, what do you do? The most common approach which we have would be something towards saying that let's say, for example, hi, my name is Mahesh. I've been in the armed forces for 20 years, so on and so forth, right? When you make so in the corporate world, it's something like, if you introduce yourself with this approach, what happens is, now you being a veteran can work either for you, or it can even work against you. I'll tell you why. Because the person who's on the other side, he or she may or may not have a bias against armed forces, right? So in order to, so one of the attempts which you'll have to keep in mind is, whenever you speak to someone, you need to understand whether this person is so now often at times you're not in a position to understand whether this bias comes into play, and therefore your military pitch, your elevator pitch needs to be a bit more generic. So if I'm going to give my elevator pitch, it would be something like, so I'll cover this in the resume part. Okay, the second section of this this session. The elevator pitch is nothing but, what is that 2 to 3 lines you will say about yourself, which will get the other person hooked or interested, or would like to take the conversation ahead. I'll give you an example. So in my case, I would say that I am a military professional with 10 years of experience, working in the field of maritime domain. I have had the experience of handling a team size between 50 to 100 over a span of 10 years across 6 cities. And towards my last appointment, I was overseeing analysis of what do you say, strategic assets within the armed force. I mean, something on a very similar line, right? Essentially, and after which you need to top it up with something like, moving ahead, I would like to move into the space of, for example, data analytics or SAP, or let's say I'm genuinely interested in upskilling myself towards becoming an expert in RFI, RFP processes in the corporate in the next 5 years, and therefore I'm looking towards being part of an organization which is growing, which can meet my expectations as well. If you kind of work on something like this, let's say 2 to 3 times, you take a piece of paper, you write on it, you start refining it, you'll see that this becomes more natural. And therefore, so an elevator pitch is the term which is used where, let's say you're going to be part of an elevator wherein there's a big businessman who comes in, and there's 30 seconds for the elevator to reach the ground floor, and all you have is 30 seconds to pitch. So okay, so so you need to understand, before you take any product or services of a company to someone else, one of the first things each and every one of us has to learn is how to sell yourself. Okay, and therefore the pitch is the first aspect to it. The moment you open up and when you talk about yourself, people should be genuinely interested, right? And one of the easiest ways to make them interested is to bring in your armed forces background. But what happens is, in a corporate setup, when you're in a hunting mode to find a job, you need to be a bit more careful, right? Selling. So when I say pitch, so let's say, because the pitch, or you said something, people are genuinely interested, they say, why don't you come for a call? Okay, and it's when you come for a call that you sell yourself. And that is why I'm saying interviews are places where you're going to sell. right? That's a place where, and when you say you're going to sell, it is mainly about your credentials, your experience, your certifications, your skills. How do you draw out a storyline and have a very meaningful conversation with the other person? After this is done, then comes negotiations, and finally closing the deal. If you look towards your left side of the screen, there's something called IDA. IDA, if you would have been part of your marketing, branding and marketing sessions, it's nothing but the funnel. If you've heard of the marketing funnel, okay. So A is awareness, I is the interest, D is the desire, and A is the action. Okay. So the framework behind this entire setup is branding and marketing is gonna generate awareness in the market. Okay. When someone takes interest and starts reaching out to the batch or starts reaching out to you, that means they're genuinely showing an interest. If they have taken you to the next level where you're coming into an interview stage or you are having a one-on-one meet with them, they have a desire to take you in, right? They have not yet decided, but they have a desire. And towards the end is the action, that is towards negotiations and closing. So negotiations is important because all these things might fall in place, but if your salary expectations or your some of the benefits which you're looking for, if the company or the person is not able to pay, then again it doesn't convert, right? So this is the overall idea behind it. Now every PRC batch has got a placement cell. I mean, if you have a placement cell, it's if you have one person looking after it, ideally it needs to be the concept of placement cell may work out towards initially with 4 or 5 people, but by the time you reach your 5th month of PRC, the entire batch has to come into play. Okay. One of the most tactical things a placement cell can do is, as a batch, let's say each and every one of you reaches out to one industry leader through LinkedIn or through any of your colleagues. You need to start having a target. Okay. So let's say week 1, you have over here, week 1 is, okay, we are able to reach 5 industry leaders, 6 companies. Okay, so how many through LinkedIn, what is the, how much were you able to reach? So how many posts collectively we are able to do as a WhatsApp group, Telegram group? Is there any other place where you're currently active? This is all branding and marketing tacticals, right? How many cold and hot call is nothing but cold is you're approaching someone for the first time. Okay, well, it can be the CEO of a company, CFO, CTO, so on and so forth. Hot calls are basically people whom you're already in touch with or you have acquaintance with and you're taking to the next level. If the placement cell is able to collectively monitor or let's say track this progress on a weekly basis, imagine if within a week you're able to touch upon 5 companies or let's say 10 leaders, by the end of month 1, you would have already hit 40 leaders and at least close to 20 companies. Okay, I mean, by all means, it's not easy, but the fact is when you start doing it, it becomes much easier over a period of time. And see, this is something which a placement cell can do. Right now, what happens is the placement member of the cell is the one who reaches out to all the talent team or the HR team, and they try to fix interviews, they try to call them, right? But how it needs to happen is the batch reaches out to the market and the placement cell tracks as to how we are doing from a progress standpoint. Okay, that is a collaborative effort which will work out. There have been many occasions in the past where placement cells have disintegrated over a period of time, and people are not able to what do you say, the batch unfortunately could not leverage the complete the collective strength of the batch. Okay, so this is one area which is going to make a huge difference. So it's a very simple concept. I've got just one more slide, after which just stop. It's a very simple concept. Revenue minus cost is profit. Okay, it's something they want to teach you in accounting and also financial management as a subject. Right. What is the context of bringing in this slide over here is, if you look into the market today, you pick up any role of a company, okay, it is going to fall into either a revenue generating portfolio or a cost optimization portfolio. Predominantly, all operations role will fall under cost, and all revenue generating portfolios, that is business development manager, it can be a marketing manager, it can be a sales manager, it can be a techno product manager where you are the one who takes it to the client. Okay, so revenue is the one which faces the client. Any portfolio which faces the client is the one which is going to generate the revenue, and any portfolio which is internal into the team, which internally supports leadership, which internally supports the overall functioning of the company, is what is gonna what do you say? The nature of the role is going to be defined that way. Again, portfolios which are revenue generating and client facing will pay you more. Cost, the roles which are cost optimization will pay you relatively less in comparison to revenue roles. Okay, now at this stage, when you move into the market, most of us get offered roles which are more into cost optimization. Okay. Most of them are operations. We are very rarely taken into roles which involve business development, unless it is a company, it is like a company which is going to be focused on, let's say, building a product or a service in the defense segment for the country. Let's say, so there was an officer in my batch, Wing Commander Pankaj Saxena. He got an opportunity from a foreign firm who are looking to expand to India market, right? So they were ready to give him. He had an ex CTC. They were ready to give him a house to stay. They were ready to give him, a car and I think a chauffeur as well. Pay was really good. All his job was to get connected with officers at IHQ level, headquarter level. I mean, all regions, and to participate in all RFPs. Okay, and try to bring in this asset here, right? So those kind of roles happen to be one of the best roles where we are the most sought after candidates, because someone in the outside will not understand how the procurement or the entire the hierarchy works within the armed forces, right? And therefore, any role you get wherein if you are jumping over to the other side, supporting the armed forces, and you're part of a contract company, please don't undersell yourself, because just imagine you can't have 14 years who has done even an MBA from, let's say, IIT IIM as well, can't jump into a company which is supporting armed forces without knowing the system, right? It's not easy, and therefore we happen to be some of the best. I've heard of several cases in the past where people have just taken up roles for 16, 17 CTC per year, and essentially they get frustrated and they move out, right? And so that's the reason why. So always keep it in mind that any role which comes across to you, you need to understand, is this the revenue part to it or the cost component? Okay, most of the time you will get an operations role, but if you're going to get an operations role, one of the questions you need to ask either the interviewer or the HR is there a feasibility for me to move into a client facing role, right? Does the company provide you a pathway for you to move into a revenue client facing role, or a role which wherein you can bring revenue for the company? Reason is very simple. Every time a market goes through recession, the first area where they're going to start letting go of people is the cost area. Okay, because revenue has to come in. but they will optimize on cost, right? So every time there's a market depression, there's a market low, it's the cost component or the cost element of the company where people will start letting go of people. So imagine anyone who's doing operations, your talent team, your branding and marketing team, recruitment team. These are all portfolios where people will be they'll be told to leave. Okay, rather market facing, revenue facing, techno product managers, anything to do with your ability to build relationship with a client are less likely to go down in such cases. So, okay, so this is a very simple diagram which I've just grown, right? So this is your batch. This is a PRC batch. Now you are approaching a company. Now, when you approach a company, or let's say you made a resume, you saw a job description, you made a resume, you send it to the talent team. Okay. So talent team is basically the recruitment. R over here is the recruitment. So if this is your recruitment team, R is business, BL is the business leader. Okay. And H is basically the human resources. Now, whenever you send a resume to your recruiter, you need to understand this is a recruiter is at the first gate. He or she is the gatekeeper over here, right? Their job is to eliminate candidates. I've mentioned here eliminate. Their job is to eliminate. Let's say a profile gets chosen. Those profiles then goes over to the business leader. Okay. Now, when there is a business leader, his or her job is to choose the candidate. So you'll have your level, your interviews, so and so forth. Once that is done, the candidate then accepts the offer letter and then moves into the company where your human resources will take care of you. So human resources job is to sustain. Now, why this is important is the most interesting part over here is we spend around 70 to 80% of time interacting with this set of people. Right? We reach out to recruiters, we reach out to talent, we reach out to we reach out to so many folks, but your impact is the only place where you're gonna increase your impact or increase your chance of getting recruited into a company is if you start interacting with your business leaders. Okay. How do you understand who's the business leader is when you go to LinkedIn, you'll find they are the ones who take the decisions. They are the ones who have the power to spend budgets. They are the ones who are very active in pursuing the markets and all. Right. So you need to understand every time you hand over your resume to the recruiter, they have a pipeline. They have a pipeline of let's say 200, 300. They don't have to choose the candidate. Okay. Choosing of candidates happen only at a very higher level. At a much lower level, that is at a mid-level management, it is usually it is all about eliminating the candidates, filter them out. Okay, if the pipeline is more, they will put in additional filters. Like you will have an automatic what do you say? You'll have an ATS system, application tracking system. That system again will have a filter. So on and so forth. They will put maximum filters so that they get the cream of candidates coming in. Again, it's relative, but that is how it works in most of the companies, right? And from the recruiters, they go to the business leaders. Business leaders, if they agree to it, they intimate recruiters. They are the ones who reach out to the batch and then schedule interviews. So if you are attempting to build relations, your relationship building should be focused on business leaders. I'll take a pause here just to understand, just to hear out some questions. Any questions at this point?
No, sir. No, sir.
Nothing?
Not right now, sir.
Okay. Fine. So this is essentially it's kind of a working model which you need to what do you say? You need to adopt, right? Now to the top part of the deck, you'll see one more part to it. See, that is the role of a recruiter or the role of a HR department is to ideally to save money. Their job is to reduce the cost aspect for a company, and they will do whatever it takes to do it. The role of a business leader is to grow the company. And therefore, when you speak to, let's say, when you're in touch with the business leaders, when you speak to them, the line of conversation you need to have with them is, hey, so just want to understand how the business is planning to grow in the next 2-3 months, and how can we participate in that? How can we take part in helping you grow your business? Right. That is the kind of conversation you need to have, rather than saying, sir, I'm from so and so batch. I was in the I was in so and so forces for 10 years. I'm looking for a job. Please let me know if there's a role opening. If you go by that line, most of the time they're gonna just tell you, why don't you speak to my recruiter? This is her or his number. Okay, and gets diverted. Rather, when you have those conversations with them, and let's say if you're going to speak to someone, let's say in a company like Biocon, okay, which is into biotechnology, you need to do some level of research and homework, and when you reach out to them, say, hi, my name is so and so, I've been reading about so and so areas, and I find that Biocon to be a leader in this sector. Is it feasible to have a 10-minute chat? This is a cold call, and all you need to do is you need to just create a profile on LinkedIn and just start doing this. You start doing this, you will understand that the more you do it, you may face rejections. That is okay, but the more you do it, the more confident you gain, right? Because this is the same thing you will have to do once you get into any of the companies. You're going to start talking to the same set of people. Some companies will have hierarchies, some companies will not have hierarchies. You may have to deal with clients. You may have to face many no's. They may not be interested, but this is something, as simple as picking up the phone and talking to people is something, it is very underrated. Okay? And those who do this well are the ones who really make the cut for it. So PRC, your pre-release capsule as a batch, from whichever institute you do, you need to understand that for the next 2 to 3 months, this is going to determine what is the kind of life or lifestyle you're going to have after leaving service. And I'll tell you why. The reason is competition is extremely high. And when I say competition, I'm not saying only amongst yourselves. The number of PRC batches have gone up. The number of officers who have taken up additional courses on their own, which many of them will not reveal, has gone up at multiple folds. And believe it or not, today your airmen, your sailors and jawans have enough certifications, enough credentials in their hand that today they are in a position to break into portfolios which earlier were given only to veterans who are from the officer cadre. I am personally aware of sailors who have joined Wells Fargo. In fact, my own sailor, whom I have been quite fortunate, to speak to and mentor and all. He has got into JP Morgan, right? Not at the same level, but I'm saying that it's only a matter of time where you'll join a firm and you'll find an airman, sailor, or a jawan sitting next to you, and might be doing the same work you might be doing. Okay, the pinch factor over here is the pay may not be as different, right? And therefore these are realities which come and hit you. For some amongst us, it might be okay, but for some others, it might not be okay. You may choose not to even join the firm, but that is a reality which has picked up in the past 2 to 3 years. Right? And therefore, that's where I want to bring in the point that for the corporate world, every veteran is the same. They refer to the same. There's no bifurcation between what service you're from, what is the trade, what is your cadre, everything. Even between officers and men, officer, men, women, it's all the same. Right? Now, it's only a matter of time where Agniveers, after their completion of service, they will join the corporate and they will have their own say in this. Right. So there's a point in time where there was an edge where companies like JP Morgan, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, they have veteran hiring programs. Okay. Now, veteran hiring programs attracts all veterans. It attracts, so there's no bifurcation. It attracts everybody, and everybody gets the same pay. It is a very sensitive aspect. In fact, even for that matter, even within EY as well, there are discussions which we have kind of taken up and said that, hey, you need to be very careful. But the gist of the matter is, if talent is available, no company will stop hiring. Right? So it's important, and you need to be aware, very wary of it. Questions? Anything? Anybody? Okay, I can take one question.
Sir, I wanted to ask.
Yes,
Like
yes,
you
yes,
said,
ma'am, please.
sir, I'm Smita. I'm Smita, sir. I wanted to ask. You told that competition is very high,
Yeah.
and companies are now looking at everyone in the same lens. So the people who have done many certifications, do they
Yeah.
get more chances outside? And people like us who are already on a course and not able to get time to do many certifications are having the less chances. So is it like, sir, that it means that somewhere we are lacking and we need to pop up our pace or something like that, sir?
Okay. See, let me put it this way. Doing a PRC from an IIM is not going to give you an edge. Okay. Unless you kind of package yourself in such a way that your experience in the armed forces, your certifications which you have done over a period of time, over and above, you have done a program management from, let's say, IIM Bangalore. All this have to be crafted together in a very specific manner. Right. If you ask me, does a PRC give me an advantage over other candidates when it comes to interviews? No, it doesn't. Does an IIM tag give me an advantage over other candidates? No, it doesn't. I'll tell you why. Because there was a point in time where getting into a course in IIM was itself is a very prestigious matter. Today, if you look at, you go to IIM Bangalore, there are many executive courses which are happening, okay, for 2 months, 3 months. In fact, I will share my experience. I spent around 75,000 whilst doing my PRC. I did a course on HR analytics from IIM Rohtak. Okay, ये सोच के कि I'll have 2 IIM tags, so that I have double the effort, right? But what happened is, when you go for an interview, okay, if your interviewer is an ex-IIM, Bangalore,
Sir.
Kharagpur, and trust me, there are plenty. Okay, there are plenty. The boss whom I work with is an ex-IIT IIM. I'm telling you, they can see through you within a matter of 5 minutes. Okay, the reason is this. Today in PRC, if you're doing 15 case studies as a part of your sessions, I'm hoping that case studies are discussed, correct? If you're doing 15 case studies, imagine someone who has completed 2 years in IIM would have gone through at least 500, 600 case studies. That develops a business acumen, okay, which you will not be able to compete against. You might be good at operations, you might be very good at people, but when it comes to understanding a sector, when it comes to understanding how the business is run, I'm telling you, when it comes to using Microsoft Excel, they can beat you within a matter of 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. And therefore, so see, this is one side to it. Now, let me tell you the other side. Someone who doesn't do PRC will have to put in at least 5 to 6 times the effort to understand what is happening in the business world. Okay. I think to my recollection, doing a PRC will cost you around approximately around 2 lakhs. Okay, for a period of 5 months. Someone who's not doing PRC may have to either spend that much or double the amount of money, or put in twice the amount of effort. Okay, either by doing courses on Coursera or on Udemy or certifications to cover up for that. Okay. Now, what I learned in PRC helped me after joining the company, right? And if I'm looking at PRC, the most important subjects would be the finance subjects, the ones which talk about accounting, the ones which talk about finance management, the ones which talk about what is what is the bond market, what is mutual funds, where do you what are the rate of returns. Okay, you would have, I don't know if they've started touching upon net present value, IRR value, and everything. Okay, how do you understand what are the rates of a loan. Okay, because by the nature of role we perform in armed forces, we are not asked, hey, how do we spend 100 crores and make 1,000 crores out of it? We are never asked what is the mileage of a fighter jet, or what is the mileage of a tank, or ship mein jaane se pehle we never say how long can we. Those resources are unlimited for us, right? But when it comes to a business scenario, I'm going to give you $1,000. Tell me, how do you make it into 20,000 in the next 5 years? How do you jot that in the form of a business model and break it down and convince the other person on the other side? Okay, whatever soft skills are required, or whatever human skills are required for you to sell or for you to position yourself, is already there with us, right? All we need to do is understand how does money flow, how are decisions taken. Okay, now that's why if you're going to do a certification, you must not do it with an intent to collect it and to make your resume heavy. Rather, you need to connect it. Let's say you're doing a certification on PMP, you need to be absolutely sure as to why you're doing it. Okay. Personally, my example is, I have not done a PMP, I have not done CBAP, I have not done Prince 2. All I did was Six Sigma, which was worthless. Trust me. But I focused on doing Google Analytics certification. I did certifications on Udemy. I did data science from Coursera. The reason is, I was very clear, I wanted to move into data analytics space. Right? Even in my interview, they had asked me questions for which I do not know answer. But your certifications kind of indirectly showcase to the other people that, okay, this person is willing to put in the effort to learn. Yeah. And I was to an extent able to speak their language. Okay. So similarly, even when you're doing your PRC in IIM Bangalore, you need to connect these up. So I'll touch upon this as to what you need to do in PRC. Okay. But if you ask me, hey, will certifications alone give me an edge over other candidates? Possible. Very difficult. Very difficult. It is, because today, if someone has enough capital, if I put in 3 lakhs, I can make my resume as heavy as anyone out there. Okay. They will ask you one question. They're going to ask you one simple question is, tell me your experience in client-facing roles. Very simple question. One question can break you down over there. Give me an example of, okay, or tell me, tell me, why do you want to join the company? Let's say Amazon, why do you want to join this company? They're going to if you don't know about Amazon, what Amazon does, how it generates revenue, okay, what are the origins to it, none of your certifications, all your certifications will fall like a domino. Okay. I am aware of an officer who went for an interview, and she was asked a question in Six Sigma. Okay. She was quite frank enough to say that I did this certification only because there was an opportunity for me to do it, and I just wanted to understand it, and that's the reason why I've done it. Rather, if you stick to your guns and say that no, I know Six Sigma, you can ask me any question. She got to know later on that the person on the other side was 20 years experienced in Lean Six Sigma. Right. So if you've done a certification, you can always say, I'm trained in this. I don't have the experience, but give me an opportunity, I will. So there are ways to position yourself over here. If you look at, you can't look at everything from a very statistical point of view, right? And that's why. So whatever you pick up, you have to. It's the way you say it. Okay, the way you say it, and you need to be frank. At the same time, you can exaggerate certain areas which will work for you, right? Any other? So I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Thank you, sir.
Right? Shall we just move on?
There are a couple of questions, Arjun.
Oh, okay. Yeah, please.
Nikhil sir, you can.
Good evening, Arjun. This is Commander Nikhil Hegde here.
Hi, sir.
I like your concept of revenue minus cost is equal to profit. So I was looking at, like you said, being on the revenue end rather than being at the cost end. I'm an ex-officer, surface Navy, and it's all bullshit outside. So people are, time and again telling you it's very difficult to get into the marketing or the finance end. How difficult do you think it is, to be on that end and, be at the revenue and selling end? And what kind of upskilling would you recommend?
Okay. So see, so first thing I just want to clarify. Again, your past experience, your past trade, like you mentioned, your surface Navy X, okay, has got nothing to do with the role which you're going to pick up in the corporate. It has got nothing, absolutely nothing. I am aware of, I am in touch with officers from infantry who may not have seen much of corporate, but they have joined JP Morgan and they're working well. Okay. There are many other folks who have picked up many roles which have got nothing to do with your your past. My own colleague has picked up a security role in, I would say, so she was in Bhuj district. She's an ATC officer. She picked up a role as a security officer, right? So that's what I'm saying. For a corporate, in the corporate, the moment you say "मैं फौजी हूँ," instantly, there are certain portfolio which are very easy for you to get in. Okay, I mean, at least for some more time. Okay. Security portfolios, admin, facilities management, running a place, or you need project management. It's quite simple to get into these things, but it's now okay. If you ask me, how do I get into this? One is a genuine. If you're genuinely interested in, let's say, you're interested in marketing, or you're interested in, let's say, a client facing or a technical role. Okay. There are 2-3 ways of doing this. One is, if you have the time, capital, money, you can either invest in an MBA, 1-year executive MBA, do an MBA and get it. That is one way of going about it. Second way of going about it is voracious networking. And when I say voracious networking is, today, our country, we are quite fortunate to have multiple promotions, multiple seminars, multiple trade functions, organizations. We have all these keep buzzing in the market. If you go to Google today and say, okay, there's a conglomeration of business leaders. Okay, India's Time Conclave, for example. There is a congregation of IT leaders. There is a congregation of marketing leaders. Okay, these people gather at a place. Or there is Defense Expo. Very simple. Defense Expo. Right. you get a whiff of something of this sort happening, do not think twice before taking a ticket and going there and showing up wearing a suit and blazer. Okay. I have done this. Lucknow ka Defense Expo ke liye, I got my best attire on, and all I did is I just walked around and started talking to people. You will not believe it, sir. Right from corporate communications to people looking to find, and these are all business leaders. They are the top of the lot who are gonna come, and they're gonna start. Some of them, they take decisions. They have the power to take decisions. They may even invite you saying that, hey, why don't you come for an interview? Let me set it up with my recruiter. Right. That recruiter talent. See, if you go to LinkedIn, you're going to get, you will ask 100 questions to a recruiter, they will not reply back. The reason is not that because they are trained that way. It's just that their bandwidth is so limited that they will not be able to go into it. Right. So one of these areas, trade show. Third way is, if your existing network of, let's say, short service commission officers or permanent commission officers, seniors, juniors, subordinates, spouse, friends, there will be one person who's connected to someone into the, let's say, marketing domain or the revenue generating portfolios. Figuring that out is your job. Who is sitting where? You'll never know. Probably that person might not be there in LinkedIn. It might be your neighbor. It might be your family, friend's friend. So you need to start having those conversations. Start having people say, hey, I'm genuinely interested. I don't know whom should I speak to. What do you think about this? And I'm telling you that things open up pretty fast. It happens. It happens faster than you think.
So for the placecom also, you would recommend a top-down approach would be a better way of.
Yes. So why I'm saying for the batch, the top-down approach is much better is if one officer reaches out to one person, okay, by the end of the week, you'll have at least 60 connects. Minimum is 60 connects. I don't take much effort. I don't have to put so much of effort. If you tell a placement member to, hey, uska kya hua? Matlab, have you spoken to that company? What have they done? Companies, yes, it is there. But let's play with our strengths, right? If we are in a unit, I mean, so you will know this better than me. When we are on board a warship, the easiest way to get things done is to pick up the phone and talk. Or sending a mail, sending a fax, that is the later part to it. Okay. But easiest way to pick up the phone and talk. And easiest way to seal the deal is talk about the same thing when there is a social gathering, when you are part of this, same thing. When you and the other person part of the same thing, go there, close it. And so that is the same concept you need to apply outside. And it's applicable for Army, Air Force, you name anything. It doesn't matter. But I'll tell you, you will not believe it, sir. In the corporate, people find it difficult to do this. People find it so difficult because they prefer to drop a mail or they prefer to drop a ping. Rather, it's much easier if you just, even a one-on-one conversation in today's world after COVID, people are very reluctant. I am aware of, even in my own company, there are people in the cubicle, the cubicle where they work. They have not spoken to the person who's sitting on the other aisle. It's just how I'm just talking about corporate because they're so engrossed in their work. Most of them are designers, most of them are developers. They are more on the creative side, so they are in their zone. So talking to people happens only when there is a requirement. Right? So I hope I have been able to answer your question. Anyone else?
Good evening, sir. Sudipta this side.
Hi, Sudipta. Please tell me.
Sir, as you told that there is a revenue side and a cost side wherein we will look forward to our jobs. Can you please highlight like what should we look into while we are searching for the jobs which are meant for the revenue side?
So I'll cover that. I'll cover that now.
Sure, thank you.
Any other question?
Sir, I I had a question, sir. Just wanted to know what are the glass ceiling we need to break to get into consulting? This is one of the areas me and some of the other participants are also interested in. Request if you could dwell on this subject, sir. Consulting, client facing, this glass ceiling, how do you break into it? Because the industry personnel, whomever I've spoken to, say that you need to have considerable amount of experience in this field. Yes, that is a job requirement, but how do we make a foray into it?
We have the requirement. It's not that we don't have the requirement. Let me quote another person. So the beauty of being in touch with so many officers over a period of time is, whenever they got into a role, they have been kind enough to reach out to me saying that, hey, hey Arjun, hey sir, I just got in. Okay, and after which I have a conversation. Let me quote a very good friend of mine, Major Sulabh Sethi. Okay. So myself and Sulabh, we started interacting. We kept in touch for like 2 years over LinkedIn. Right? Okay, he had reached out to me. We stayed in touch, and today he's part of the EY member firm, Delhi. Okay. Now I'll tell you how he got it. You need to understand consulting takes in people with experience. Okay. Now, if someone comes and tells you that, hey, you don't have the experience, please educate them back by saying that probably experience is there, but it's not relevant to your domain. Where do we have experience? If you look at an officer who's coming from infantry or who's coming from artillery, like your experience is revolving around security operations, which are relevant to security portfolios. Okay. Example, TCS campus in Bangalore. Okay, I think TCS Infosys. TCS is the entire campus in Bangalore is being run by the name Major Arjun Vishwaram. He's a ex special ops officer, right? He's here in Bangalore. Okay, he's part of my PRC. How did he get a job? Because his experience was relevant to that role. How did Major Sulabh Sethi get a role in EY member firm? Is because he had applied for a role which was exactly what they were looking for. So he has got into a portfolio known as government public services. That is, all consulting firms, what do? They reach out to their clients in the market. For now, let's say if you're a government sector, your client can be varied. It can be right from Ministry of Waterways to shipping ways to MSMEs, whatever it is, right? We predominantly have experience in all three services, or let's say procurement process. But let's say we are good consultants to work with if there is someone out there who wants to sell something to the armed forces, but they don't know how to sell it or they don't know whom to talk to. Okay. You can today set up a company of your own as a consultant. Okay, no one's going to stop you for that. But you need to understand who this person is who's trying to sell something. So he got into a role because they were looking exactly for this person. The challenge over here is such roles don't come in LinkedIn. Okay, such roles come especially in consulting. It comes only if you are in touch with people in the consulting world. That is, if you are saying that my dream job would be to join the consulting domain, then you must know at least 30 to 40 officers who are right now in the consulting domain, right? And I know for a fact that PwC is hiring. Unfortunately, EY is not hiring, just to put it out there. Okay, I'm saying when I say hiring, there are two types of hiring. One is the veteran hiring, wherein there is one gateway where everybody will come, everybody will get the same package. You must be happy with whatever they give. It's an opportunity to grow. You can go. The other side of hiring is you go to any of their website, PwC, KPMG, even for the matter, you can apply for McKinsey, BCG as well, right? All of them will have job roles, will have opened up. You need to figure out which job role suits your experience. and apply for it. And to make things easier, if you know someone in that company, you can call up that person. First, build a rapport with that person. And as far as, build a rapport with that person and then relay your resume. Okay. So that person will be able to validate and say, yeah, this role is good, go for it. Right? I'm aware of many people who have joined EY through that manner. Okay. So sometimes it's a matter of luck where someone from within one of these firms will reach out to you saying that, hey, you seem to be a good candidate. Can we come? Sometimes you have to put in the effort. Right? In my case, I had to put in the effort. My junior, Lijumon, who had joined EY 1 year prior, had saw me doing all this LinkedIn and all these branding activities back then. And he had reached out to me saying, ki, sir, try to karo ek bar. And 15 days later, I joined EY. So that's a different story altogether. But I'm telling you, it's not a hard place to see. They are correct. They're looking for experienced people. But if you want to join a portfolio in SAP or data analytics, and if you're really trying hard, that because that role is not suited for you. Okay. But easiest is to stay in touch with people. Right? Shall we quickly move on to the next? I hope I've been able to answer.
Yes, sir. I'll connect with you later.
Yeah, sure. So let me just quickly.
You can move ahead. Then at the end of the session, we'll have various questions.
Sure. So let's just quickly go through some of the points. Okay. So let's cover upon resume. I don't know if this has been covered again and again, but then I'm still going to cover it. So each and every one of you, your priorities, commitment, liabilities, education, everything is unique. Your experience is unique. Your skill sets are unique. Your domain is unique. So if all this is unique, the question you're gonna, and even if the job description for which you are applying for is also different and it is unique, that means your resume also should be unique. So does that make sense? Whilst being PRC, what happens is you have a tendency to kind of pick up what is someone else's resume, reword it, and then position, and then change the photograph, and then put it across, right? That essentially doesn't work in the long run, because imagine this. If one company has got one job description and you're applying for 5 different companies, most of the time that resume is not going to help you. That one version. Personally, when I started hunting for a job, I had to curate almost near close to 25 different versions of my resume. Okay, and each of these, and this is all 25 different versions, not using any tool. And I've used number of tools, number of websites. I've put in money. End of the day, it doesn't work because you are the only one who can do this. So there's a lot of effort which goes into this. And yes, sometimes those efforts don't convert, but that's how it is, right? So if you can ask me, hey, there is pitching and selling. So where does a resume come in? Okay. A resume is just a document to solicit a response from an organization. Interview is the opportunity to where you're going to sell yourself. It's not the other way around. And when I say other way around is, you would have seen resumes. I mean, if you look at your resume and if you see 3-4 pages, wherein right from the day you were born till date, whatever achievements you have had, if you bring it out, that essentially is not a resume. Okay. And what the most important aspect over here is the relevance to the job description matters. Okay. So if you have a 4-5 page resume, that means you're trying to sell yourself on a resume, it doesn't work. Okay. It's just a document to get a response from an organization. If you get a response, go into interview and then you sell yourself. I hope that makes sense. Some simple aspects what a resume should comprise of. It should comprise of a technical knowledge. Okay, your technical knowledge, your domain knowledge. It should bring out your stakeholder management or collaborative ability, and communication, verbal and written. If you're the one who's made the resume, it becomes easier. They can even ask you, are you the one who made your resume, or did you get it outsourced? Very simple questions which can change the way they look at you. Right? Let's just dive a bit deeper over here. So what you see on your screen is a very simple template when it comes to a resume. If you look to the left side, right? Imagine if I'm a business leader, I'm going to go through 50 resumes a day. I don't have time. So if I don't have time, you have to understand that whatever you put into this document needs to be very relevant and it needs to highlight the best of yourself. Okay, with the JD in context. Now, when I say, so one is, who are you? You're applying for a security portfolio, any portfolio where an element of armed forces helps you, put in your rank. Okay. Otherwise, preferably just write your name. What is, if there's a latest certification, you can write it PMP, Six Sigma if you want to highlight it, if you can talk about it well enough. Okay. Next is the pitch. Who are you? What can you bring to this company? What are you seeking? You know, so it showcases the attitude. It's not that, hey, I've done so many things and this is what I am. It needs to be, I've done so many things. This is what I'm doing. And this is what I intend to be in the next 5 years. You can always end that summary with something like, I would like to be a thought leader in the space of data analytics in the next 5 years. Okay, so it showcases the candidate's ability to look forward next 4 years, 5 years. Skills. If you look at a typical veteran resume, you will see leadership, you will see collaboration, you will see extreme ownership, team leadership, team player. I mean, these are skills. We all agree to it. These are very generic skills. The skills which you need to bring out is the more of a technical aspect to it. Okay, it can be Microsoft Excel, it can be data driven analytics. These are basically, you know, if you make it generic, those skills, and you can even pick up some of these skills from the job description, right? Power BI. So if there's a requirement to upskill and understand some of these technologies, please do so. You need not do a very hardcore certification, but a simple Udemy just for you to understand, right? So that from day one, you're not in a position, you're not blank. Over and above skills, your skills need to be validated by the certifications, right? So if you're going to write project management as a skill, your certification also should showcase that, okay, PMP is done, right? It can be your ability to forecasting and analysis. It's a skill. You need to assert. So if PMP covers that, you can include that. Don't include too many, but I'm just saying your all this is positioning. You know, first 3 seconds I'm going to go through the first 4-5 lines. Then I'm going to come to your appointment, education, and appointment. You'll see that this is more of a funnel. It's got a V shape to it. The reason is, irrespective of how your career path has been, okay, it's not the case all the time, but you need to showcase growth. And when you showcase growth, it can be either in the span of teams, or it can be in the form of responsibilities you've taken up. It can be in the form of projects. It can be in the form of trust which given you. It's quite easy when we are from the armed forces, because the scale at which we do things do increase. Some of you may have appointments which may not be the case, right? Like, for example, a commanding officer of a unit moves over to headquarters, your scale kind of comes on, but your responsibility increases. So you need to align and bring all those together and showcase that, okay, this is a person who has gone through a consistent growth, and based on his executive summary, it seems that he or she is also has a desire to move ahead. Okay. Last but not the least is education achievements. These are more of cherry on the cake, because usually we are hired as, we are not campus hires. We usually don't mention about CGPA or anything, but if you feel that the role for which you're applying for, your education is very relevant, you can bring the education panel to the top. Okay. Achievements again should be relevant to the job description. Okay. Now here, one more thing I want to highlight is these appointments. The term which you use, right, also makes a difference. We have business, there are titles which are given to us when we take over a portfolio. Try to find a parallel in the corporate world. easiest ways to look at it is go through 10, 15 LinkedIn profiles. You look at that career trajectory, you will find many titles which are very synonymous with what you have done. Okay, pick that up and then put it into your resume. That becomes easier, because the less you showcase yourself as a what is it, a Fauji, the easier it is for the other person to consider that, okay, this person might be a good fit. Right? One of the fears in corporate is they don't want military culture to seep into the organization. It's a it's a very it's an unspoken truth, but that's how it is. We'll just skip the questions. Okay, how to write your resume. So I'm just going to touch upon your bullet points. Okay, like the appointment part. When you look at each appointment, okay, under each appointment there is you have to write at least 2 or 3 lines, right? You need to mention what is it that you have done. Okay, and it needs to be an action which is completed. It is you've executed, collaborated, completed, so on and so forth. What is the achievement? What did you achieve because of that, or what did the organization achieve because of that? Okay, here increase in revenue might not be the case unless you have been part of a canteen or a non-public funds, again, which you're not supposed to generate profit. But I'm just saying that if you bar this one increased revenue, you would have either reduced the cost to government exchequer, you would have increased the efficiency, you would have increased output, you have reduced time, decreased wastage, increased savings. There are multiple ways of looking at money and time, right? Over and above that, use a metric, right? What are the team size, hours, money, percentage, margins? Very funny fact is corporate leaders love numbers. Okay, you show them a trend, you show them a percentage, you show them graphs, average, and you talk. If you can bring a story out of it, they would love it. And similarly, they want to look for a very similar pattern when they look at a resume. Okay, so keep this in mind. It really helps, when you're curating each bullet. You have to spend some time into it. It's not easy, because each one of you would have done something which is very unique. So when you are in an interview and let's say the interviewer saw your resume, and the person is going to ask you, okay, so can you explain how did you achieve this? Let's say you're part of an interview, you're there sitting, and they say, okay, can you please explain in so and so unit you are a project manager. Can you explain what this is? Right now, they are essentially looking to hear what are the skills you used. And it can be a skill, it can be a framework, it can be a model, right? And this is something which you pick up in PRC. It also comes in courses, it also comes in your certification. But when I say a model is, a Johari window is a model, the 4 quadrants. Okay, it's a Johari window is a model, and based on that model, today you have many other models coming up, like Gartner's quadrant. Okay, then so similarly, you need to understand. So a Gantt chart is a framework which you use for leaf forecasting, or even for planning. Similarly, so what is the science which was used in each of your achievements, right? Is something you'll have to sit a bit deep and think about. Let me just so what do they want to hear? Either you have used a tool, there's an I used advanced Excel to do it, or I used a dashboard. There's a process model, or there's a SOP which was put in place, there was a workflow which was put in place, or RFP, end-to-end contract. So your textbooks will have models which every time you have a case study, when you come across a model, you need to understand, hey, have I used this model in my past? If yes, how do I bake it into my interview process so that I can, position myself as a more, because see, in armed forces, most of the tasks which we do are based on, either mistakes which are made by the past, or which we learn over a period of time, right? Nothing is handed over to us. But in the corporate, they need to be very sure that, or they need to have the conviction that, hey, he's not someone who takes a gut. We take decisions based on gut instincts. That is not something which they would appreciate. Rather, it's more towards, hey, what is the framework behind it? Is there a science to it? Is that person applied something which makes sense, or is the person just blindly it was a matter of luck, right? Simple example, very common. Completed 2-year renovation contract, new training center worth 10 crores, awarded CNC, CNN. Okay, so this is a very simple a bullet which you will find in many of the right. And in fact, this is my bullet. Now I'll just show you how I'm going to change this. Okay. So I've executed an end-to-end automated training center for 400 senior recruits, leading to 12% increase in workforce utilization, or you can say reduce manpower deployment time by 2,000 hours. Now, the question you'll have in your mind is, from where did I get these figures? Okay. From a career standpoint, this was basically a bum job. My senior had my commanding officer had one fine day called me saying that there's a building lying at the corner of the base. I want you to renovate it and convert it into a museum. Okay. Now, the museum was a term which was used, but what essentially happened is there was an element of training also involved over there, or they want to conduct training over there, plus VIP visits. Okay, every time there's a senior leadership coming, they wanted to showcase whatever the base has to offer in this hall of fame, or like wherever it is. Because earlier what used to happen is every building or every center which had to be part of this inspection or visit had to deploy manpower. They had to, you had to put one chief, one sailor here, 2 officers standing there, salute, bring them in. So this happened over a period of time, over a period of 8-9 months. When this came into play, there was no longer requirement to deploy manpower. There was no longer requirement for a couple of officers to stand there. It was all automated. There was a screen which was running. There was a video which was created. And there was only one person who had to kind of drive the entire conversation. Right? So it is essentially how you put it across. You're not trying to lie over here, or you're not trying to. You're just trying to put it into a language which is more easy for the people in the business world. Try to understand this. Okay, so interview, this is where you sell yourself. Okay, most of the time it's going to be, they're going to start with something like, hey, tell me something about yourself. Okay, so when they say tell me something about yourself, that is where your sales pitch is going to start. Okay, they are not interested in your family, they're not interested in personal life. They may appear very warm, but you need to understand this is where your sales pitches you have to go. Okay. So stick to the truth, don't oversell. If you look at a typical interview duration or a timeline, okay, it would be something like this. When you start off, with a sales pitch. Okay, then they're going to ask you, okay, tell me something about this. They're going to look at a resume and tell me about this experience. Okay, so when the experience comes, then there is a skill. And once the skill is done, you want to talk about the skill or the framework. After which comes the next part, that is how. Right? Then again it goes to the skill. Again it goes to. So you see these 3 points over here. These 3 red dots are basically the decision milestones. They are essentially the decision milestones for the interviewer. So this is yourself, interviewee, and the bottom part is the interviewer. This is the decision milestone where they will decide that, okay, this person is worth the time. If you kind of cover the first part, and if you cover the middle part, right? These are the 3 areas where more or less they kind of decide that, okay, this person is cleared. Okay. If you lose out on the first, if let's say, and here you need to understand, look at the percentages I've given here, 20, 40, 60, 40. It is how much time do you spend talking? If you spend, let's say the interview is for 20 minutes, and if you spend 10 minutes talking about a sales pitch, you've lost it. Okay, 20%, that's it. You just need to speak, pitch, and then give the chance to the next person. Okay, then comes so essentially it's not a question answer. It's more of a conversation which you're trying to build with the other person. Right? So towards the middle of the interview, you have an opportunity to explain more about yourself, more about the framework and everything. And towards the end of it, it will be a bit more, it will be a bit less. So you see this curve which is happening. It's a conversation. There are, so what do you say? It's not a I mean, you have to look at it less as an interrogation and more of a conversation between two people. What is the framework you need to keep in mind? So this is a model. So what I'm showing you is a model. Okay. Anytime you're going to look for a job, or let's say you want to start looking for a job, the most this it is so this is one part. One is preferably approach global brands. Why global brands is, let's say you did clear an interview, you got in. Global brands have the flexibility of even positioning you into new roles, or new roles open up over a period of time, right? And it's much easier to navigate internally rather than looking for a new job outside. So global brands are like Procter & Gamble, Unilever, Mastercard, anything which is about headquarters beyond India, or it is headquartered in India and has got a global footprint, right? Most of the time we go with a CTC reference. JP Morgan is giving 30, Amazon is giving 30 plus, so so on and so forth. So what happens is it becomes it may not hit you today, but if you end up in a company which does not suit your expectation, you will most likely, you may have to start looking for another job, and then again it's again you'll have to follow the entire process. Every decision in the corporate is connected to the balance sheet. Okay, everything, right from hiring, right from you can say to getting promoted or anything. So all in all, balance sheet is a place where your all your decisions are going to take place. Even if you look at any subject of yours, you look at strategy. Strategy is just, they're talking about, hey, I have X amount of money. Where do I put it? Where do I put it in the market today so that I get back 100x? Okay, everything is collected with balance sheet. A company is going through losses. If you take any balance sheet today, 70% of their expenses or cost is towards employee salary. Okay, so the easiest decision for any company to take is to lay off people. Again, so hiring someone, they will hire you and see, only if you have a talent which is that good, if you have a skill set which is that needed, it's only then a kind of an exception is taken. Okay? Otherwise, I'm personally aware of many incidences where very good talent, very good skill, when it comes to the final part where your expectation is so high that they'll not be able to meet it. Right? So you're looking for a job. These are the only 3 points which matter. This is not a framework which I have made by myself. It is a framework which was handed over to me by Arvind Juglan sir, who happens to be working in Deloitte. He's the one who kind of touched upon this. And in fact, there are more. I've just simplified it. Okay, so when you're going to look for a job, it's either the nature of work or the location or the CTC. There is no other point beyond this based on which you're going to take a decision. Now, the funny part about this framework is you get only 2 of it. Only 2 of these factors will satisfy you at any point in time. If you say that I want to pick up a job in Bombay because my family is staying, my spouse is working there, or I want to pick up a job in Delhi because my children's education is happening at least for next 4 years, and you do it, so your location is fixed. Now you need to figure out whether your CTC is something which you can let go of, or the nature of work. For some, they'll say, I am ready to work anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. For me, it doesn't matter. For me, CTC matters. I cannot compromise on, say, CTC is basically cost to company. It's a salary which you are going to ask for, which is the minimum you are expecting. Okay. For some people, their location in CTC is fixed. But they are okay with any kind of work. They will say, I'm ready to do any kind of work, but it doesn't make much of a difference. So at any point in time, you have only these 3. So be very clear as to which are the 2 points which you kind of need to fix on. In my case, I wanted data analytics to be a space. I wanted Bombay to be my at least the location at that point in time. And for me, CTC was not a matter because I realized CTC is something which you can pick up, and which eventually turned out true. Right. Now, if you recollect the revenue and the cost factor, essentially when we start in armed forces, we get trained as a cadet. Okay. We are taught how our men will run operations. In fact, we are part of many of the operations. Okay. It's when we start growing in armed forces, we move to a more strategic role where we start talking about, okay, how do we spend this money in a more fruitful way? How do we bring in more impact? How can we bring in more value to the people around us? Okay, it can be weapons, can be armament, can be sensors, it can be anything. Now, most of us leave service at this stage. Now we are crossing over, and now our expectation is, hey, how do I get a strategic role? Right now, this usually doesn't happen because we are not aware of as to how operations happen in business. Okay, and therefore, if you're going to go for a role, you need to go for a role which involves an element of strategy and an element of operations. At least pitch for it. At least when you're having that discussion with your human resources, or whoever it is, this is the place you need to understand. Hey, someone is calling you saying, hey, I got your candidate profile. We think that you're suitable for this role. Can you please tell me? So what are the questions you want to ask? Okay, can you please tell me, is it client facing or is it a cost optimization role? Is there an element of strategy involved in it? Is there an element of operations involved in it? What is the kind of growth involved? I mean, can I move? Okay, it's an operation role. Can I move to a client facing or a revenue generating role in a span of 1 or 2 years? Who will take that decision, right? So you get to understand these are the kind of questions you need to ask. Because most of the time we are like, okay, they're gonna call you, hey, how are you available for interview? Yes, I'm available. What is your CTC expectation? Or they'll have, what is your last CTC expectation? They'll say, my last CTC is so and so. Okay, what is your expectation? So expectation, again, never reveal numbers. You can always say that, my expectation is, always give a range. Okay. The range is because at least to initiate conversations, range is the best way to do about it. You can say 27 to 32, something like that. Okay, and you have to be very clear. 27 to 32 is what? Is it in hand or is it CTC? Okay. So I just want to. So Manpreet sir, do we have time? 10 minutes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yep. Okay. So I'll quickly cover when it comes to PRC, what to do. What are the trends in the market? Okay. When I say trends in the market, most basic trend is just have a look at Sensex, BSE Sensex, National Sensex. Look at US markets, look at Europe markets. What are the trends? How are they going? Are the markets going up, going down? Is the economy going up, going down? Your macroeconomics and microeconomics, those things, they come into play here. Sector-wise knowledge. Okay, let's say automobile sector. How does automobile sector generate revenue in each of these areas? Who are the thought leaders in each of these space? Okay, when it comes to space travel, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Virgin Atlantic, Richard Branson. So these are the thought leaders in space. So if that is the case, who are the thought leaders in defense segment in our country or globally? What are the latest research? If you go to Google and you type all this, you'll get this framework. Okay? And supplement it with models, framework solutions, which you get to hear in your case studies. Right? And why case study? Because this is the same teaching approach which is used in Harvard, which is the same teaching approach used in Oxford, same teaching approach used in Yale. Okay. What essentially the professor does is, the professor comes, he or she hands it over to class, tells them to go through it, read 2-3 chapters, please come prepared the next day, and we will discuss. It is their job to facilitate the discussion so that they touch upon the frameworks. Okay. There is no end result in any of these discussions. There's no solution. Okay, solutions are multifold, and here is the most important part, and that is the quality of discussions are going to make a huge difference. Okay. How much each one of you is going to take part in these discussions is going to influence how each one of you is going to derive value from PRC. I can't put it in a more simpler way. Okay. The more there's participation from within the batch, the more the value you're going to generate from PRC. Okay. So each subject is important. Understand each subject, how it is connected to your industry and sector. It may appear fragmented at first, but you need to understand that this is the foundation. It is the foundation on which, and so whatever you learn for 5 months, a typical MBA candidate may take some more time to learn over a period of 11 months or so, right? And they will have additional case studies. That's the only difference. So we have domain experience, but its relevance to the corporate world is something you need to understand. What are the sectors which the corporate looks for is healthcare, travel, banking, insurance, life sciences, power. See, so what is the commonality in all these sectors is these are the sectors which generate revenue. Armed forces does not generate revenue. That is the other point to here. To understand is we can keep saying that we have armed forces, we are damn good at it, we are good at project management, but they're going to ask you, okay, is there any other sector in which you have done some work? If not, then you need to pick up a sector which is of your interest and try to understand this domain through case studies, right? And when I say sector, okay, travel sector, how does travel sector generate revenue? Simple. How can we bifurcate travel sector into multiple subsectors? Okay, it is travel is, you have travel and tourism, you have homestay. So okay, pick up a firm in one of these. Okay, travel. Let me say, Make My Trip is a company which has been around for so many years. How does Make My Trip make money? Travel. Let's say, okay, let's go a bit more. Okay, there's a dive site. How does a diving center make money? There is a resort. How does a resort make money? Can I make a business model out of it? Can I understand how to make profit? What is loss? What are the cost involved in running it? What are the capex? What is the opex? Right. So these are multiple perspectives to look at. Another way of looking at it is what are the top 10 trends? Artificial intelligence, blockchain, thought leader, Gen AI. Pick up any of these trends and see how you can position yourself as a thought leader in the space. Okay. Easiest way to understand this is: are you in a position to talk about it in a global forum if given an opportunity today? Like tomorrow, if there's a chance, will you speak about it today? If not, that means you have not reached that level of thought leadership. Right? Is PRC worth it? Okay. So PRC, I'm sorry for the line. So the value gained from PRC is directly proportional to the participation of the entire batch. It is the collective wisdom that prevails. And so you'll find a very similar parallel, that is, it is that of the stock market. Okay. Stock market is a collective financial wisdom of the investors involved. Right. And that's the reason why it's very important that each and every one of you have to kind of the amount of participation you have in each of these areas is what are going to determine your PRC's value, right? There's some batches who have been able to gain maximum value. Some batches have not been very quite forthcoming, and therefore they. Other way of looking at it is you will understand business acumen, okay? Because we have experience, but then we learn the theoretical aspect to it in a PRC or an MBA. What happens in an MBA is they learn the theoretical aspect at first, and then they get the experience, right? Easy talent pool for recruiters. It's simple. Only difference is alumni network. Okay, IIM Lucknow. When you say you have an access to many IIM people, we as veterans, we have a much larger network, and that is a 4G network. The global veteran network is much larger than this. And therefore, if you ask me after PRC, should I do an MBA? It's up to you. But can I still live in this world without an MBA? You can. It's very much possible. In fact, there are many folks in the companies nowadays who may not have had the time and capital to move for a full-time MBA, but then they have picked up on the go. Finance domains are important, essentially because we are given code heads, we are told to expend it. If you don't expend it, you'll not get even 50% of it next year. Therefore, we have to make cases, get over with it. So we don't have a return on investment or return on equity at any point in time, right? So finance domain is very important as far as PRC is concerned. And develop a relationship with the college administration, keeping long term. I mean, if you ever have to come back to IIM Bangalore, meet your professors, you need to have the relationship. Okay. And these are people who have continuous research. They are into continuous research and they understand market trends much better. I mean, next time a professor is taking a session, try to see as to what they can reveal, right? You can ask a question, Professor, can you please give us a trend or an insight as to how this sector is evolving, and where do you see us as project managers or as anything being part of the industry? He or she is going to give you an insight. It's going to be a different. It's a value add. So next 5 months, 3 to 4 months, develop a business intuition, create a personal brand, upskill wherever there's a gap, and generate buzz in the market. It's quite simple. There's nothing beyond this when it comes to hunting for a job. Be wary of certifications because certification itself is an industry. If I want, I can put up a company today and I can give out 100 certifications, charge them for a minimum this thing, teach them whatever it is. But you need to understand every certification comes with an expiry date. You do a PMP, it comes within 2 years, you have to renew it. Take anything, because why there's an expiry? Because the technology changes. And for you to be abreast with the technology, you have to keep giving those examinations. Okay. And it's just a validation for your learnings. So coming towards the end of the session is this, right? What's the big picture, right? So we've talked about branding, how to write a resume, how to pitch, what is important, what is not important. I'm going to let's just take 2 steps back and just want to give you what is the big picture over here. Okay. Now, the corporate is in desperate need of good leaders. I've spent 2 years in EY. It's nothing against the organization, but I'm just telling you, when I say good leaders, I've worked with much finer, some of the finest leaders when I was in the services. By the approach, by the way tasks are delegated, both senior and junior, right? And this is a space which has no competition. This is a space which has no competition. Okay, hands down, we need more good leaders. And when I say good leaders, you need to have the traits of being a good teacher. Okay. It is being compassionate, having an element of empathy, especially at a senior level, mid level, right? Because whatever stress or pressure which comes from the top usually gets passed down below. We happen to be in those areas where we have dealt with this. We have seen life at a much larger scale, and therefore we are in a much better position to be leaders in terms of running teams, so on and so forth. So, and therefore, so I hope the batch understands that what I've given you is a context. Okay, and a context is nothing like this cup which you see on the screen over here. It's something, it's a framework where what you have is basically the content, and it's up to you to structure your content, your experience, your perspective into this cup, right? And I'm not saying that all of you are going to have the same version of the cup. It can be in any different format, right? But how it is going to hold your entire content is what's going to make a difference, right? And towards the start of the slide, I had shown you purpose. Okay. So we talked about branding, we had talked about career. Now the purpose aspect is, in any transition journey, the statement of why is very important. Okay, because if you're not clear with your why, you're going to find it very difficult as to how you're going with the how factor. Okay. So it's in PRC would be a time where you will have to retrospect and see what is it that you want to do in your life after armed forces. Okay. Is it mandatory for you to pick up a job in the corporate? No. Is it something that you're going to enjoy? Maybe. Can you start something of your own? What if there has been something which you have always wanted to do and which you have never been able to do also? And therefore, if you are able to define that why statement, the how becomes much easier. Right? How do I write a resume? How do I get a job? How can I transition and move out? Right? Because one part of your purpose gets taken away when you leave out of service. I've been through it. It's one of the most painful, and that's the reason why even if you follow whatever everything the market says and you land a job, if within 2 to 3 months, if your purpose was not strong, you will tend to leave the job, right? And you'll tend to stick, and you might even pick up something which is much different. And so that's the reason I'm saying, take 2 steps back, think about it. We have all earned this freedom. Why not focus it on something we've always wanted to do? Therefore, PRC is not just about finding a job. I would humbly suggest explore, try to discover areas which you have never discovered about yourself. And if you are able to package it and deliver value to someone else, there's nothing stopping you from starting your own business. Right? And therein lies the beauty of, I would say, democracy.